Um, so this is Ken Hanson. He rides for Optum Pro Cycling, powered by Kelly Benefit Strategies. I want to get right to this here. He's a veteran. Are you 30? You're 30 years old, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. 30
That's
years
correct.
old this
How
year.
many UCI wins do you have this year?
I have 6 stage wins, and then 2 weeks ago I won the King of the Mountains competition at the Tour de Beauce in Canada. So I guess you could probably call that 7.
Yeah. How big of a win was that for you?
It was pretty big. I mean, it was certainly the first time I've ever won a King of the Mountains competition. It was my first time at the race, and it's a really difficult race. So, you know, that accomplishment in itself was pretty big, but also it was Father's Day, and I dedicated the win to my father, who I lost to cancer when I was 17 years old. So that was also a really big moment for me.
Wow. Has that, I mean, if you were 17, and I mean, that must have had a dramatic impact on your life. Does it change the way you ride your bike, your perspective on anything?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does. You know, it's losing my father at that age. There's certainly a lot of moments that still to this day I miss. Having him around, and it's taught me a lot about just kind of seizing the moment and giving everything 100%. And certainly in that scenario of winning the King of the Mountains, I didn't really I didn't walk into the last day where I sewed up the competition with that as a focus, but when things started to settle in that I had a chance and it was Father's Day, that was a big extra motivator for me. So that was pretty special. So,
yeah, that's a sweet victory. Well, we saw Jonathan Cantwell last year make the jump to the World Tour team, and you were right there with him all year as one of the fastest guys in America. Do you have the engine to do the same?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope. I mean, certainly, I'm racing for Optum Pro Cycling, and the team's fantastic. I mean, I'd say we're one of the best American-based teams for sure. And it's a great team, great group of guys, great management, great sponsors. So I'm happy here, but certainly I would like to have the opportunity to go and race a higher level of racing. I think I'm ready for it, and been looking at maybe making the transfer to a more European-based team for next year. So still a little early for that to happen, but that's definitely in the cards, and I would like to have it happen if it's a good situation. So yeah, I'd like to.
Well, I think by winning that jersey and showing that you can get through those hills and still be the pure sprinter that you are does big things on your scorecard for these bigger teams. You're in like the third or fourth quarter this year with Optum. What are your directors preaching to you guys right now?
Well, I mean, we just got off of a really good, tail end of racing for the first half of our season, where Tom Zerbel won the overall Nature Valley Grand Prix, which was huge for us because that's where our sponsor is based in Minneapolis. And then we had, the other rest of the squad, the rest of us were at Tour de Beauce at the same time. And so winning the KOM, second on the last stage. They're really happy about how we kind of ended that. But, looking towards the second half of the season, for me, the focus is, Criterium Nationals and then Tour of Elk Grove. And then, maybe Tour of Utah, maybe not. And then our team's, still in the hunt to try to get into both Tour of Utah and Tour of Colorado. So those are big focuses for us as a team. And so right now all the guys are on a break from racing for the last 2 weeks. So I'll get back started with Manhattan Beach Grand Prix on July 8th. And then it's all about kind of getting the criterium legs for nationals, and then looking at what we're going to have for August as our race schedule.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're going to have a lot of fanfare there at Manhattan Beach. It's a really nice criterium they do over there.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. How, these guys that come, they start out really strong in the beginning of their careers, and through the end of their career, they kind of, I don't know if it's lose focus, but how do you get a guy to ride at the end of his career or tailing at the later part of his career like he did in the beginning?
I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. Certainly for me, I haven't really had a lack of motivation as far as, giving everything to the sport. I think, that's got to be, individual, motivation per every rider. And I think, some of the guys have always had that kind of hunger and that drive. And then other guys, maybe they lose that, or they their focus or their priorities shift a little bit, and they're looking at family life or things past cycling, and maybe they kind of lose a little bit of focus. But I've seen some guys finish their career and have some of their best years, and then other guys in their late 30s kind of check out and kind of hit cruise control. So.
Right.
I mean, it's always tough to say, if there's a formula for it, but I think it just depends on the individual.
Take me back to the beginning of your career. Was BMC, was that a big breakthrough for you? That contract?
It was. Yeah, it definitely was. I was on their amateur team in 2006, and I was still in school full time, and that was kind of my big step to racing kind of the NRC circuits. And they kept me on board for the next year when they turned professional, and that was all. I mean, the first couple of years when you turn professional, even if you're talented, there's so much experience and learning you have to do to even get to a point where I think you can be competitive back on the scene. And I was on that learning curve, and unfortunately the team kind of grew a little bit too fast and focused more on stage races. And at the time I was predominantly a criterium sprinter, so I bounced around to a few other teams, and I've been slowly kind of changing my focus more towards road sprinting. I mean, certainly I love racing criteriums, and it's great, and I won the Tulsa Tough overall,
which was awesome.
Yeah, and so I know I race criterium still, but the focus has been more road sprinting, getting results at stages at Tour California, US Pro, Philly. And this year it certainly paid off with stage wins at Tour Uruguay and Tour Korea. So, it's interesting how some guys. What's that?
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just said you're getting a lot of depth in your legs when you're riding all those big tours.
Yeah, exactly. And in the U.S. there's not quite as much room to grow for a sprinter unless you start off as a criterium sprinter, because we have some stage races that will have sprint stages, but a lot of them don't. A lot of stage races, the only stage they'll have for a sprinter is a criterium. And if you want to go race in Europe or kind of bring your level up to a new platform, you have to focus on being able to sprint after 5 hours of hard racing or plus or more than that. So, and then that's been my focus the last few years, and I think this year it's definitely starting to show and paying off.
Well, that's cool. My question to you is, you have a lot of horsepower on your team, I've noticed. Tell me how important these guys are when they're leading you out, because I think that makes the difference. When you come up with these big victories, it sure seems like a lot of guys are working really hard around you to get you to the line. Tell me what role they play.
Certainly. I mean, the group of guys on Optum Pro Cycling are fantastic, and we do have a lot of horsepower, and our lead out train always changes a bit depending on who's at the race, but we've gotten it down to kind of a set formula that we like as far as order of guys, and really it makes the ultimate biggest difference for me as a sprinter, because it allows me to relax and not have to use as much energy fighting for position, and I can save all my focus and energy on the sprint. And the guys have done a fantastic job for me this year. I mean, Tour Uruguay, Tour Korea, a few other races stateside, and even the guys at Tulsa Tough. We didn't really have our most experienced team as far as horsepower and depth, but every guy stepped up and rode above their ability just to be sure to get me with a straight shot to sprint. And it makes my job easier, but it also adds for extra motivation, because I don't want to let them down. They're doing so much hard work for me, and I want to pay them back by giving 110%, and so that's what I try to do every time. And
sure.
So it's a good relationship. So yeah,
that's good. What can you tell a young sprinter that looks at you, some young kid? What kind of advice can you give them?
I mean, the biggest piece of advice is especially as a sprinter, you can have, I don't know, there's times in my career where you don't always have the best of luck, and certainly crashes are a part of the sport, and it's kind of a roller coaster. I mean, the career isn't stable, and it takes having one bad year, or 1 year where you're not getting results that you should be, and then you're maybe you're in a position where you're not in a leadership role, or you're working for another guy, or I mean, everything can change. But for a young guy, certainly for me, I think what attributes to most of my success was just sticking with it and not giving up, and just doing the hard work in the winter. It's been getting as much training in, and just rolling with the punches, because it's going to be a roller coaster, and it's not always going to go as you hope. But if you put in the time, it'll start to come back. So I mean, that's the biggest piece of advice. Yeah.
That's good. I'm sure a lot of young guys will take that kind of stuff to heart. Give me a couple guys that are on Optum's team right now that are kind of off the radar, that are maybe younger guys that are going to be like the future of cycling. Do you have any of those type of guys?
Yeah, we've got a couple guys. I think one guy is he's getting on the radar right now on a big level. Sebastian Salas. He won King of the Mountains competition at the Tour of California, and he hasn't been racing that long, but he's just a very gifted athlete, and he's incredibly smart and motivated, and he's learning a lot with the team. And he's going to be a guy, I think, in the next few years, if not next year, he's going to be getting some really, really big results. So he's definitely a guy that is on people's radar, I think, on a lower level now. But we've got a handful of really young guys. One guy in particular who stepped up big at Tulsa Tough for me for the leadouts was Cody O'Reilly, and this kid I know because he lives in the same town as me, and he's I think 24 years old, and he just won Downers Avenue yesterday at Tour of America's Dairyland, and I think he's going to be a big addition to our speed sprinting criterium team for the rest of the year, because he's had a really slow start. So he's definitely a guy to watch out, and he's going to be a guy where, if I'm having a bad day or if I'm not at a criterium, he can definitely step up and I think, close the deal on some sprints because he's really fast. So he's probably the other guy that I think is flying under the radar right now and is set to have a really good second half of the season.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
What's it like being a celebrity in Santa Barbara?
I don't know if it's much of a celebrity, but I think we've got a couple celebrities that are a little bit bigger than domestic professional cyclists there. But it's good. I mean, the cycling community there is fantastic. I mean, it's we've got great group rides. The weather's great. The roads are great. A lot of the people I've gotten to know over the past 4.5 years that I've lived there are just fantastic people, and it feels almost like it's like an extended family every time I go home and catching up. And a lot of them are really involved with paying attention to what's going on in cycling and even the domestic racing scene. And so it's good. I mean, I've got a good community there and a good group of people around me, and so it's life's really good there.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Just a couple more questions before a big race. How do you warm up? How do you get those legs ready? Some guys have different routines. I always like to ask.
Yeah, it really depends on the race. For say a big race like a big one-day race like Philadelphia, because it's so long. There's really almost no warming up. I mean, most of it's just getting as many calories as you can in before the race starts, because it's such a long event, and you're going to do 5,000 plus calories when you're racing. So those are different, but certainly like the shorter, more technical criteriums. I like to get to the race 2 hours before the start, and I don't really like to warm up on a trainer. I like to get out on the road and kind of get away from the race and kind of clear my head and kind of focus on getting mentally prepared for the race, and then also physically just making sure to get some hard efforts in to get really warmed up. Certainly like before the crits in Tulsa, Oklahoma, we were getting there as a team 2 hours before the race, getting our numbers pinned on, getting our bikes ready, rolling out, and getting a good warm up, and then we'll talk strategy and do some efforts, and so we're all on the same page when.
Would you say you're the leader of that team? I mean, when you guys get done racing, if you guys don't win or there's mistakes made, and I call it the circle of chairs by the bands, are you like the leader, and are you the outspoken one on the team?
We've got a couple guys that fit those shoes. Our most seasoned guy on the team is Alex Candelario, and he's our other sprinter, and his kind of talent is more of the tough guy finishes, and he got fourth on stage 3 of Tour California this year in the sprint, and so he's an incredibly gifted rider, and he's one of the leaders on the road that calls the shots, and so him and I will talk it over. But really, he's been on the team for since its inception with Kelly Benefits. So he's the guy that really is the rider captain. But with that said, we all get input from each other, and it's not really a monopoly or dictatorship when it comes to race tactics. We like to discuss it and have different views and opinions, and ultimately we feel like when we have that openness and somewhat sort of democracy with tactics, everyone's on board and we race better and we execute better. So
it's like a family.
Exactly. So I mean, Candelario is really the captain of the road, and we've got another guy, Mike Creed, who's got more experience than 90% of the guys in the professional peloton, and they're both really good with tactics. And but at Tulsa, I was a veteran on the team, and I was a go-to guy, so I was the one kind of calling the shots. And it was more of if setting up a smaller team of 5-6 guys, we have to strategize team tactics a bit differently than a stage race with 8 guys. And so we were being sure to making sure everyone was on board and knew it at Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I mean, it paid off, and everyone executed and did exactly what we needed to with the guys and resources we had. I mean, we didn't have a mechanic or a soigneur there. It was just us doing everything. So we have a good team. Everyone's on page, on board and on the same page when we set up a team tactic, and then everyone gives 100% and we try. So it's a great team.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this is Ken Hanson. He's one of the fastest sprinters in America right now. He's joining us from Telluride, Colorado. And we really appreciate you joining us and giving us your insight, because that's what all us fans really want. And you're such a nice guy. You're a gentleman, and I hope this opens the door to more guys coming out and talking, because getting to know you, that's what the sport's all about. So this is Brandon and Ken on CyclingIllustrated.com.